Welcome to Pawpaw's Workshop. This is the last and final video that I'm doing on this segmented bowl. And this is the day you get to find out if I can actually salvage this huge mistake that I made where I put those rings on incorrectly. This was a challenge, and this was the day of a whole lot of first. And quite frankly, it was a little bit scary at times to see if this could be saved. But let me show you how I did it and what happened. Let's get started. Now, by the time I realized that the rings were on incorrectly, the glue had already dried enough where I couldn't take it apart. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this glue dry overnight, and then we're going to see what we can do to salvage this. Well, my first thought on this was just to cut this ring off and re-glue everything together. But what I'm actually going to try to do is see if I can't just blend this all together and make it work. Not sure if this is going to happen, but I'm going to give it a try. Because this piece, these two pieces should have been reversed, and I messed that up. So if I can blend this piece in and kind of change the shape of it, I think it might work. Now the first step on this is try to get rid of that large section that's now protruding out, and also to try to true up the whole bowl to be able to get it balanced a little bit better as it's turning on the lathe. Now I'm running the lathe at the lowest speed that I can to be able to do this process. And again, I don't know if this is actually going to work, so this is one big experiment. The worst thing that can happen is that the whole thing blows apart and I just throw it in the trash can and start over. But we're going to find out. The final shape now is coming together. I think I am going to go ahead and take a little bit more of this out so it's a nice, smooth, even profile. But that's now looking a whole lot better. I'm going to turn my attention to the inside. Because this ring was put on wrong, it actually is recessed in way deep. I can stick my finger all the way back to this point. So I'm going to have to clean out and cut all this material away and then shape the inside of this bowl before putting any additional rings onto this bowl to continue on. This was a major mistake, but I think I'm overcoming this mistake a little bit at a time. Now I'm going to start shaping the inside of the bowl. And the first step of this whole process is try to get it balanced. Because right now it's a little bit out of balance, and that's causing some excess shaking. It's not a lot, but it's enough that I really don't like it. So I'm just going to go ahead and take small bites at a time and smooth this up and get it where it's nice and balanced. And again, I'm using the lathe at the lowest speed possible. So after just a few minutes, I've been able to get the outer rings cleaned up and get it where it's running real smooth now. And now I want to work on that whole big section that has to be removed. Now what I decided to do, instead of just cutting all the material away just a little bit at a time, I decided to use the parting tool and actually cut a nice slot into this and actually take this whole section out at one piece. And that's the plan anyway. Let's see how that works. I've never done this before. This is certainly new territory for two reasons. One, I've never made a mistake this big, and two, I've never had to cut the inside of a bowl to get a whole big section out. Needless to say, I am certainly taking my time on this process, doing just a little bit at a time. Because again, I'm not sure just what's going to happen when this turns loose. Now I've got this down to it's barely holding on, and I can push it and break that last little section away. I think that's going to be the safest way to be able to get this out. So it was hanging on just by a thread, and that worked out real well. Now I've got that whole section removed, and I can go ahead and start cleaning up this inside of the bowl. Again, this is not the profile that I wanted to have when I really originally designed it, but it's the profile that I have to work with in an effort to save the bowl. I think this is more of a lesson on what not to do than on actually how to make a bowl. But if you can learn from this, I think that would be great. It also certainly will make you think twice about not putting the rings in the wrong position. I know I'm certainly going to really look at it close when I do my next bowl, because I really don't ever want to repeat this mistake again. I wanted to change the lighting for a moment, and I think this gives a very cool looking effect. But I'm still doing the same thing. I'm just slowly shaping the profile for the inside of the bowl, and I have to be real careful because I really have no plan to go by. I just have to be able to look at the thickness of the bowl and slowly carve and try to make everything smooth and blend together for this new profile shape. And surprisingly enough, I think that this is actually working, and I think we're going to be able to save this bowl. Miracles do happen. Now I finally went ahead and finished both the inside and the outside, and I sanded this bowl starting at the 60 grit, and I went all the way up to 400. And then I'm putting a very thin coat of the shellac on this, and what this does, it seals the wood and it raises the grain so that I can easily sand it. The nice thing about this, it dries real fast. Now I said in the earlier video when I started this was going to be a yarn bowl. So I just real roughly sketched this out, and I'm going to start cutting this portion out. And this is the way the yarn actually sits in it, and it feeds through this so that as the person is knitting, that you can pull the yarn and it stays in the bowl. And I'm using a Dremel to be able to do this process, and I've got just a little small saw blade that I'm using. And I'm going to switch and use several different blades because this one is a small one and I do not have the necessary size to be able to cut all the way through this bowl. Then you can see also how my little drawing has changed, and I'm literally making this up as I go and shaping it and changing it and adapting to what I think will be a pleasant, pleasing lines and will work to be able to support the yarn. And at this point it's time to start doing a little bit of the filing and sanding and trying to get a good shape on this. The other thing that I decided to do too, and I have often talked about using the Dremel bits over on the CNC machine, and this time I'm taking a CNC bit and using it in the Dremel, and that actually worked real well. That allowed me to be able to cut all the way through, and it's allowing me to be able to shape and smooth the surface of this cut much easier than the bits that I had for the Dremel. So this is another reason that I really enjoy woodworking, because you're constantly adapting to new situations, and as the woodworker, you're the one that has to solve the problem, especially when you're the one that made such a big mistake to begin with. But on this actually is a lot of fun because I can adapt and change the design as I'm actually carving. And this was a interesting experiment using a CNC bit. Now this is an 1/8 inch upcut bit that I'm using to be able to do the carving. And it just happened to be the first one that I grabbed. I could have used either the upcut or a downcut bit for this. Now that I have finished cutting out the design, it's time to do the final sanding. I'm going to sand the entire surface, both the inside and the out, and prepare it for the final 2 coats of the clear finish. Now this bowl looks nothing like the original drawing and the original design, But in the end, I was able to salvage it and make it work. And I didn't have to throw this in the trash can. So I think all in all, I was able to save it and show you what you can do when you make a huge mistake. It's not all loss. You can, in many cases, salvage what seems to be an impossible task. But I think this turned out pretty good considering what had happened, and it's certainly going to be a very useful bowl. Hi everyone, thank you for watching my video today. If you like the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below and the little bell next to it so you'll be notified on the different videos that I upload. Also check out the videos over here to be able to stay up to date on the happenings in my shop. So again, thank you for watching my videos.